Per 9000's Game Room.
Okay, so I think just about everyone knows who Rambo is, either because of the fantastic original movie First Blood, one of its sequels, or, unfortunately in my home the UK, partly because of the Hungerford Massacre. This was a spree shooting in Hungerford, England, which happened on the 19th of August 1987, when 27-year-old Michael Ryan shot dead 16 people, including an unarmed police officer and his own mother, before shooting himself. The shootings were done with a handgun and two semi-automatic rifles. They occurred at several locations, one of which was a school that he had previously attended. 15 other people were also shot but survived. No firm motive for the killing has ever been established, but the British tabloid press was filled with stories about Ryan's life, stating that he had a near obsessive fascination with firearms and watched violent videos, one they particularly liked to hold responsible for his actions, was Rambo. The reason I mention this is because we as gamers will often come under the firing line. People will claim that games make you violent and that they are a form of crack in cartridge or disc form, which will program our youth to be bloodthirsty killers. It was only 2 years after this that I played Rambo 3 on the Mega Drive. It was one of the first Mega Drive games I would play because a friend of my brother owned a Japanese import Mega Drive and would sometimes bring it round to our house. Despite having played Rambo at a young age and having since played many violent video games, I'm currently responsible for having shot 0 people. Nor do I have a red headband or a Bowie knife, and I reluctantly have to also add that I've never fired a flaming arrow from a bow, as cool as that might be. There were games based on Rambo 3 for pretty much every computer and console back in the day, with lots of different studios having made and published them. The Mega Drive game was both developed and published by Sega themselves, and was released in 1989. Okay, so what kind of game is Rambo 3? Well, it's a run-and-gun shooter kind of game, which takes some pointers from the likes of IKEA Warriors, Commando and Mercs. The game has 6 missions which have various objectives. In some missions you have to free prisoners, in others you find yourself destroying enemy ammunition supplies before finding the level's exit. Rambo is controlled from an overhead perspective and comes with a machine gun that has unlimited ammo, a knife that can be used for close-range kills, timed explosives, and the longbow from the movie complete with explosive arrows. Ammunition for the bow and the bombs is limited, so you need to keep an eye on how much of this you have left and be sure to collect more from dead enemies. After some of the missions, the perspective switches to a view behind Rambo's shoulder, and while in this view you will have to take on Soviet tanks and/or helicopters using the bow. While aiming the bow, Rambo is unable to move, but while not aiming you can hide behind rocks or other obstacles to avoid enemy fire. I found this to be a real neat addition to the game which helped break things up. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the controls. The best thing I can say about them is that they are simple and responsive. You will find that you can switch weapons and dodge enemy bullets without any issues at all. A neat little thing I learned while playing was that if you have Rambo stand still and fire, then he will spray his machine gun from left to right, creating an arc of death, which is different to what happens when you shoot while running. If you shoot while running, he shoots in a straight line. I found this really useful to know as it kind of adds a tool to your repertoire if you want to hang back and fire defensively. The game moves at a decent speed and it's easy to know what you're doing, and you never feel like you're fighting with a joypad, which are all things which go a long way to making a good game. The graphics are definitely not one of the game's highlights, especially during the run-and-gun shooter parts. The thing looks not very much beyond a NES game. There are a few decent bits to look at, but there's not much detail when it comes to enemy sprites, but it is an early Mega Drive game, so it's not that surprising. When you switch to the behind-the-shoulder viewpoint, the sprite looks good, but the backgrounds are very plain. As for the sound, well, most of it is just various bits of spluttering gunfire sounds. It's not bad, but it's also nothing to shout home about either. The music in the game consists of very simplistic, repetitive tunes, which I actually think sound pretty decent when listened to on their own, but in honesty you're not going to hear that much of it anyway, what with the constant machine gunning. On its release, I think Rambo 3 was a very strong game, especially when you take into account how early it was in the machine's lifespan. Even now, it's a very easy game to pick up and play at the drop of a hat, but it's also not something that you are probably going to find yourself pulled towards. I think if I had reviewed it back in the day it would have scored a lot higher, but reviewing it now with my mind contemplating if you should grab it now or not, the truth is that it's probably about a 6 out of 10. If anything, unless you happen to see it cheap, I'd probably recommend that you go for the similar but in my mind deeply superior Mercs, which I've previously reviewed. If you're desperate for Rambo 3, a loose cart with a bit of searching and luck can be found for about £15, with boxed copies obviously being more expensive. Although I probably would recommend that you spend your money on something else, to be fair. This is Kerr9000 signing off saying keep on gaming. Hi, and thanks for checking out my video and making it to the end. If you'd like to subscribe, there's a little thing down there, yep, there. And you should also see some links to some other videos on the screen now. I make reviews of horror films, video games, sci-fi films and all sorts of stuff. Or you can catch me on J Arcade. Okay, take care, have a great day, bye.